These players looked destined to be in the tour for many years, until suddenly they disappeared. From making semis of a Grand Slam at a young age, to being unable to win a single ATP match. In today's video, we're checking out some of the biggest one-hit wonders in tennis history. If that sounds interesting, let's get right into the video. Number 5. Marco Cecchinato. From the age of 20 to 25, the Italian Marco Cecchinato was ranked mostly between world number 80 and world number 200, which means he was mostly a Challenger Tour player, but he was knocking on the door for years to finally make that step and become an ATP player. Well, his rise to the tour wouldn't be progressive at all. In the 2018 season, Cecchinato started the year as world number 109 and an overall 4-23 ATP win-loss record. Pretty much every ATP tournament he played, he lost in the first round. Well, what seemed to be just another tournament, where Cecchinato even lost in the qualifying draw, he ended up being a lucky loser, and suddenly he exploded for his first ATP title. And he did so being a lucky loser. Funny how life goes. A title that proved that in the right conditions, this guy was able to produce amazing tennis. With some very heavy spin shots, including a beautiful one-hander, and especially one of the most lethal drop shots you will ever see, this guy on the clay courts had game. And this title, after many years of fighting through the Challenger Tour, would definitely give him a huge boost of confidence, as well as putting him as the world number 59. And 4 weeks later, here he came to the French Open. Seemingly out of nowhere, he knocked out world number 11 Pablo Carreño Busta. After that, he faced world number 9 David Goffin. Again, another 4-set victory, advancing to the quarterfinals where he would meet Novak Djokovic. A Djokovic that was recovering from an elbow injury but was now giving serious signs of recovering his usual level. But this guy Cecchinato was absolutely on fire. Another 4-set victory, this time against the Serbian legend, advancing to the French Open semi-finals when just some weeks prior, we were talking about a man that had a 4-23 ATP record. Here, he beat 3 top players consecutively in a Grand Slam. And in the semi-finals, despite losing to a prime Dominic team, he put up a very worthy battle, deserving of a very high-ranked player. How can you explain this explosion to anyone? But the truth is that this prime level of his ended at the beginning of the next season. He won another ATP title, this time at Buenos Aires, again producing some incredible level of tennis and looking as one of the best clay court players in the world, but after that he very quickly vanished from the ATP Tour. Despite winning that title at the beginning of the season, he ended the year with a 12-25 ATP record and out of the world's top 70. And in 2020, the season of COVID, not many tournaments were played, but he finished with an 8-13 record. And 2021 would be the season that would kick him out of the top 100, finishing the year as world number 104, and since then he's been mostly ranging between world number 100 and world number 300, basically a challengers player again. After that incredible French Open run, very few players you will see making a Grand Slam semi-final like that, but then quickly go back to the Challengers Tour again. Number 4. Jerzy Janowicz. Another player who had an absolute explosion, but in this case not after being many years in the Challenger Tour. This time we were talking about a 21-year-old Janowicz that after starting the year as world number 221 with some good results was able to enter the top 100. With one of the biggest serves in tennis, a lethal forehand, lethal drop shots, and extremely good movement for a guy that was 6'6", Janowicz was a player that was looking to have insane potential. At the end of this 2012 season, Janowicz came through the qualifying draw of the Paris Masters. What he would do then shocked the entire tennis world. Just listen to the names he went on to beat: Kohlschreiber, Cilic, Murray, Tipsarevic, and Gilles Simon. All of them top 20, and except Kohlschreiber, all of them top 10 players at some point of their career. And this 21-year-old beat them all consecutively, coming from the qualifying draw. Janowicz lost the final to David Ferrer, but still left us one of the craziest runs in recent years. And looking at those performances at that age, you would definitely think he belongs at an elite level, and he's gonna do so for many years. Sadly, if he's in this video, that was not the case. His progress would continue with a very good 2013 season, where his biggest result came at Wimbledon, where he reached the semi-finals, giving a tough battle to the eventual champion Andy Murray. Janowicz would be as high as world number 14, and would end up the season as number 21, with many people labeling him as a future top 5 player. But sadly, number 14 would end up as the highest ranking of his career, and despite having some of the biggest weapons in tour, his level in the seasons after that was never as consistent. In 2014 and 2015, he barely finished the seasons inside the top 60, which is decent, but for a player that seemed to have top 5 potential, it was definitely disappointing. And Janowicz would have to come back after such struggles outside the top 150, as if it wasn't complicated by itself. In 2017, he came really close to getting back to the top 100, but injuries kept being a problem. And sadly, that 2017 season would be the last glimpses of this extremely talented player, who was completely out of the sport the next years with a chronic knee injury. He tried making a comeback in both 2020 and 2022, and despite having some good wins at Challenger Tour, his knee was still a problem, and a problem that sadly could never be fixed. Number 3. Hyeon Chung. This might be the saddest story of the video, because a kid that looked destined to be a top player, winning the Next Gen finals, and at the age of only 20 years old, in one of his first Grand Slam appearances, he beat both Alexander Zverev and Novak Djokovic at the Australian Open. The kid was special. His movement, his strokes, but especially his mentality, it was definitely looking like we had one of the best players in the world in our hands. Until injuries would completely destroy his progress, and even in that same season, Chung had to skip tournaments and play limited in the second part of the year. His rise to the top 20 was as quick as it gets, and his downfall from there was as cruel and painful as it gets. With massive struggles in his lower back, we would never see him playing at such level again. In 2025, after years of not even playing, we're seeing a bit of a comeback, with him having some good challenger wins along the way, but he's still ranked world number 376. It would be absolutely legendary if this guy was able to make a comeback to the ATP. Seems improbable, but he is still 28 years old. But yeah, definitely he is one of those cases where injuries were extremely cruel. Who knows the player he would have been with a healthy body. Number 2. Aslan Karatsev. This case is extremely similar to the one of Marco Cecchinato, a man that has been many years in the Challenger Tour, but seems to not have quite made that step to the ATP. But suddenly, ranked as world number 114, Karatsev explodes at the Australian Open, comes through a qualifying draw to play his first Grand Slam match, which is even crazier than the Cecchinato case, and just destroys everyone in his way. He doesn't lose a single set in the first 3 rounds. 4th round, he comes back from 2 sets to love down against Aliassime. Quarterfinals, he cruises through Grigor Dimitrov, and reaches the semi-finals in his first Grand Slam appearance, the first man in tennis history to do so. And when you look at him playing that tournament, you think, where has this guy been? His strokes were massive. His confidence and demeanor on the court gave you the feeling that he simply belongs at the top of the game. How haven't we heard more of him before this tournament? The man who would put an end to this run would be Novak Djokovic, who would eventually win his 9th Australian Open. But Karatsev's insane level wouldn't stop there. Weeks later, he went on to win his first ATP title. Again, fascinating the tennis world with an incredibly aggressive playstyle, with some lethal ground strokes, and a fascinating calm demeanor. In a matter of weeks, a Challengers player had just made a Grand Slam semi-final and now won the most prestigious ATP 500 title of the whole season. In 10 years of playing professional tennis, Karatsev have won a total of $600,000 in his entire career. With just these 2 tournaments, Karatsev won $1 million. one of the craziest tennis stats of all time. But if Karatsev is in this video, it's because that insane level wouldn't take that long to fall. And yes, throughout the 2021 season, Karatsev played at very high level, finishing the season as world number 16. Sadly, that was pretty much his best ranking. And in 2022, his consistency clearly dropped. And in the right conditions, with that aggressive playstyle of his, yes, he was a big threat, but he was not a player that had the consistency of a top player. His aggressive playstyle, where he takes the ball incredibly early, also led to a lot of unforced errors. And already in the 2022 season, Karatsev would finish as world number 58. A bit disappointing after his breakout in 2021. And 2023 was a similar case, with a couple of very good results, but way more inconsistency than in 2021. He finished the season as world number 37. And sadly, 2024 would start in the most horrible of ways, with a knee injury that would require surgery, and since then, he hasn't been the same player. He lost the majority of his ATP points in that season, and nowadays, in 2025, we have him fighting in the Challengers Tour, which is becoming more and more competitive with time, and returning to the ATP after an injury is very difficult, even for a guy that for some months played like a top 10 player. Number 1. Roberto Carretero. When talking about one-hit wonders, this man is the king of them all. In 1996, this 20-year-old Spanish player was fighting his way through the Challenger Tour to become an ATP player. His potential was high, as years before, in 1993, he was the Roland Garros Juniors champion. He was known to have a big forehand and be a really good clay court player. Ranked as world number 143, he was able to get through the qualifying draw of the Masters 1000 of Hamburg. Absolutely nobody could expect what would happen then. In a tournament with a lot of upsets, Carretero would become the lowest ranked player in tennis history to win a Masters 1000 title. Remember, coming through the qualifying draw. And maybe you can think, well, the guy was a juniors Grand Slam champion, so this was simply the tournament of his explosion. Not only has he went down as the lowest ranked player to ever win a Masters 1000 title, but when have you ever heard a Masters 1000 champion whose best ranking ever was world number 58? It seems almost impossible, but it's actually true. And Carretero would never do anything after that. He would finish the 1996 season with an 11-14 record, 1997 with a 2-13, and he basically was never an ATP player anymore. His problems, said by himself, were mostly mental. And that has to be true, because the potential was definitely there. You cannot win a Masters 1000 event without playing some top tier tennis. Carretero nowadays is a famous commentator, so one way or another he's made a living out of this sport, but his case is definitely one of the most curious in tennis history. So there you have it. Some of these players shined for only one season, some of them for only 1 week. It's quite the brutal reality of tennis, but that it also makes it beautiful at the same time. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like button, and to enjoy more original tennis content of this style, subscribe to the channel to know when I upload future videos like this one. All this said, I hope you have a wonderful day and that I can see you in my next video. Peace!